Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Devcom and welcome to my presentation. Thanks for joining this presentation. It's about the 5 things that got us through the valley of despair. It's a really visual presentation. It's about 30 minutes long. If you need the notes, do go to our website. It's in the bottom left-hand corner. You should be able to find a link to this presentation there. So let's get cracking. So my name is Shaun Rutland. I am the CEO of Hutch, and I'm from New Zealand, in case you hadn't noticed. I moved to the UK in 1999, so 21 years ago. And my first proper job here was working in e-commerce, which I learned a lot about building digital products. I went through the whole .com boom and bust phase. I then worked a bit on Fable 1 and a bit on Fable 2. I then moved into PlayStation, which was an incredible experience. I didn't launch any products, but I learned a lot. And I met my 4 other co-founders there. And we started Hutch about 9 years ago. My purpose in business is to really help people do their best work. I get a real thrill in life about seeing how people work, changing the status quo, and really like figuring out better ways to do things and create a better, fairer work-life balance environment to do awesome work. What do? We are redefining how racing games are played on mobile. There's lots of challenges there. Traditional racing games require a lot of skill and dexterity and a lot of patience. Players on mobile have no patience at all. So we're really trying to change the format and introduce games that people have never seen before. We've got a huge emphasis at the moment with community building and building our games outwards with communities. And we have over 100 staff located in London, Dundee, and Nova Scotia. The majority of the team are in London, and in Dundee we do performance marketing. In Nova Scotia we do a lot of deeper tech background stuff, so that support the game teams. We've raised $5.5 million to date. We're doing really well, but we had a long period of really getting through some pretty tough times, and what got us through it was a long-term strategy and a plan and a really strong thesis as to why we think this business can work, despite all the naysayers out there. So core to that thesis is, we call it cracking cars on mobile. And if you think about media, Fast and Furious is a top 10 movie franchise of all time. So there's a lot of people out there consuming content or Hollywood content around cars, and that sort of culture that goes with it. Then Formula 1 is incredibly popular. I think it's the second most watched sport in the world. Over 500 million people watch the races. And YouTube automotive content, there's billions of views of cars, racing, all sorts of content around automotive. So we know there's a consumer appetite for racing content or car content or automotive content. However, why there's so few top 100 grossing racing games? So that's the problem we're trying to solve. We exist to make racing games work on mobile. So I'm about to show you a video about the studio. It's only 50 seconds long. It was the video was originally commissioned because our website was so dry, and we really wanted to capture the spirit of the business and the great quality of the staff and the great quality of our work. So I hope you enjoy it. Let the video roll. Okay, so who's this presentation written for? So I thought quite hard. I really wanted to add some value with this presentation to those that are really starting a new business or are going back in after they've had another business. And so it's really for first-time entrepreneurs and early-stage CEOs of gaming businesses. And then lastly, and probably the most important audience for me personally, is my team. I hope my team can sort of celebrate what we went through in the early stages. And about 50% of the team don't really know all these stories, although I think I've bored them a lot with a lot of the challenging stories. But I really wanted to use this presentation as a way to encapsulate what we went through and the things that we learned. But do take this with a pinch of salt. This is my journey. Your journey will be different. And I'm still learning a lot, and I've made a lot of mistakes, but let's get cracking. So the Valley of Despair, what the hell is it? What are you talking about? The Valley of Despair is this period on the left-hand side of the graph, where you can see this is our revenues, and this is obviously time on the bottom, and there's lots of spikes in there, which is really driven by App Store featuring, and we learned how to do user acquisition in the middle of this valley, which was a really, really big moment for us. And and this is really about, it's a really failure-ridden, culture-defining, team-building moment for the company. You have some businesses that have just incredible starts from the starting blocks, and they can't seem to make a follow-on product. For us, we've always just been slowly moving up, and you'll see the right-hand side of this chart will come in later. I'll show if you stick with me on this presentation, I'll show you the other side of the chart. How's that sound? Sounds good? Okay, let's do that. So what are those 5 things? Build trust and integrity, be relentlessly focused, be the lean underdog, create exciting horizons, and most challenging of all to talk about is manage your power. But let's get cracking. So build trust and integrity. Why? Because you're going to need your team to care and follow you through the tough times. This is really, really important. So you need to be really pumped about what you're doing, but you also need to be realistic. Otherwise, your team will think you're a lunatic, or your investors will think you're a lunatic. This is a really, really important thing to really follow this fine line about being super excited, but also being realistic. And then a big one for me, and this comes back to my statement about their work, is if you can't trust people to do their work, then how can they trust you? And so the most important aspect of this, I believe, is don't give people work to do, give people solutions to solve. It's so much more exciting for their role to go to try and solve problems than being told what numbers to paint. Third on my list is radical transparency. We do a lot of this at work, and what does it really mean? It sounds like a fancy buzzword. But we, for example, and we keep evolving this aspect of the business. We keep adding more stuff to it, but we have presented our board packs for a very long time. So, and the reason for doing that is so that the team doesn't think there's some sort of mysterious meeting where the business or their games can be under scrutiny and changed and directed by a board. So we present our board pack. We remove things like cash flow and any other personal things that are going on inside the business. And we also share things like leadership meeting notes. We really push on all the data, all the sales figures being readily available to the entire team, which for most mobile game teams, I think is pretty obvious to do that. But I'm still coming across teams where this sort of information is held by leadership teams. The reason for doing this is if the team know what challenges you have and what struggles you have, they can do more to help you to fix it. So I think this is a really, really important aspect of building a strong digital team. And then on that radical transparency, never share other people's personal business. It's their business to share. Things like pay, reasons why people left work, any personal issues. There's radical transparency, and then there's like terrifying transparency. So I wouldn't do those sorts of things. And then fourth on my list is make it safe to try new things. This is really important if you want the team to really own the things that they're doing and to really go in all and take the bull by the horns in terms of trying out new things. If they feel there's a blame culture that emerges from your business, people will tend to sit back and not try anything new. And that's going to obviously harm the future of your products. And you can, I'll talk a bit about it later, but you can really help with that by owning your own mistakes. In fact, I'll talk about it now. So you can own your own mistakes. So quite often you're asking people to go down this direction and it's wrong. And interestingly enough, like I've done this a lot, but you may take the team in the wrong direction, but if you own it and you learn from it and the team see you do that, then they're still willing to follow you on the next journey. So and then allow the team to send you anonymous questions. This for us has been at times, if I'm really honest, incredibly frustrating seeing some of the questions come through, but actually it's really a big opportunity. And the reason it's a big opportunity is when you get some really misaligned questions from the team where the team is clearly assuming things are not great or assuming something's different than it actually is. It's actually an amazing opportunity for you to realign the entire team and speak openly about these problems. So what we have is an anonymous Q&A that comes through every week, and we answer it every week. And each member of the leadership team takes a turn in answering those questions. And some of the questions have been really quite mind-boggling, but actually it's not their fault. There's no right or wrong question. It's just a really good opportunity to make sure some of these things are addressed. And then lastly, I've got in here, not everyone will like you, and that's a fact of life. It's not a problem because not liking you doesn't mean they don't trust you. It's just they don't like you. So I've actually, if I'm honest, I've really struggled with this for quite a while. But I've managed to build a thicker skin as time has gone on, that I don't need people to like me. All right. So, and that's okay. That's fine. So let's build trust and integrity. And you need to do this in order to get your team to follow you through the tough times. Okay, so number 2, be relentlessly focused. Again, seems pretty obvious. But the reason you do this is because a company with relentless focus can move so much quicker and have a higher chance of success. And really that's underpinned by businesses that have a really clear focus can make decisions quicker. So for example, at Hutch, when it comes to the games that we create, the funnel gets a lot smaller because we're just focused on racing themed games. So there's a whole bunch of questions that could be out. Like if you've got a blank sheet of paper, like some developers do, that could be really challenging, and it can consume a lot of time getting through the different types of games you can build. The other part of this is you can really stack your way to success. So because our business is audience focused on the automotive racing audience, the target is relatively fixed, and we're shooting at a lot. So as we release each game, we stack the revenues, but we also stack the technology which can be used across the games. We stack the data in terms of analytics. We stack all these different things start stacking up. So you're starting here and you start to move up there in terms of all the learnings and all the things that you're doing really start to help and make you more successful. Every shot at goal gets easier, as I just explained, and it also allows you to recruit the right people. So with a business with a focus can clearly say who it is and what it's doing and its purpose and those sorts of things, so that you truly do get great hires because people are applying for the job because they want to work there because it's really clear about what you do. And then connected to that is you can build a brand and be understood in the industry. And this really helps with partnerships. So for example, when we went to get the Hot Wheels license, Mattel came to us because they'd heard about us in the industry that we work on racing games. Formula One It really helped with us getting that license because we had a good reputation for making great racing games. So like having a really clearly defined focus, and a focus, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, a focus, in my opinion, shouldn't be the games that you want to make, but should be about the games you think people want to play. So, and it's really, really important distinction, because I think I've seen a lot of studios doing the game they've always wanted to make, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a massive market out there for it. So it's a tricky one. That's subjective, that last point. But anyway, so when you come to think about your purpose or your focus, really think about what purpose does your business serve, and what dent in the world are you going to make. So for us, we really want to be synonymous brand amongst petrol heads and anyone that cares about cars. We want to be known as the gaming brand within those communities in that world. So cool. So that's be relentlessly focused. Third on this is be the lean underdog. Why? Because you barely have any money and you're going up against competitors that have huge resources. So you really need to cut a lot of corners. And you can do this obviously by not building your own engine, by licensing an engine, those sorts of basic things. But you can also do it by being, I guess, a lot less egotistical about the products that you're building, and actually so speed to market and validation for us is essential. We, after we had a relatively good piece of success, we then spent 3 years with one of our game teams making a game for 3 years, which never saw the marketplace for over 2 years. As soon as we started soft launching and testing it, we found out the retention was really poor, and the game just wasn't performing very well. It was very hard to turn around. Now, what was interesting about this experience is that team went on to build a game, and in 8 weeks had built a prototype. We shipped it into the App Store, and it had twice the retention that the game that took us 2 years to build. So what I'm saying is speed is really important, but validating your ideas, getting contact with the player, because your amazing idea is kind of useless until you see what players do. I'm not talking about getting your auntie to play the game or your friends to play the game. I'm talking about really putting it on the App Store and seeing what it does. And it's really hard because I think a lot of people hold on to this really precious idea that they have, and they really want to see it like delivered in its full fat form, or full final form. And I just don't think you need to. I think players are a lot more accepting of great design and products that are well thought through, but they don't necessarily have the production values that maybe some publicly listed companies games do. And then really, you think about the lack of resources you have in the early stage of a business. It's not about working 18-hour days or crunching your team. You can still hold true to this, but it's about picking your battles and saying no to things. And this is really hard when you're trying to build a game outwards. And this is why I encourage people to build communities with games early on, get it into stores, start getting some early stage players' feedback. Is you can really nail down what are the real core feature sets of your game that you need to build. And in fact, my CEO Andy Watson has done a presentation at GDC about 3 years ago about this very point. So you can win from the bottom up, but you can't afford to compete from the top down. So if you look at, say, one of the best performing racing games, which I will not mention its name, we are constantly, we couldn't compete with the resources they have. They have, I think over 70 to 80 people working on their game. We've got 15 to 20. So how do we compete with these big incumbent games? Not to sort of copy their game feature by feature, graphic fidelity. We actually came at the competition with different styles of games. And so we believe a lot in high design values versus high production values, although our games are absolutely stunning and beautiful. But we really think about building experiences that offer something different to those communities. And that's what I mean by competing from the bottom up rather than the top down. The top down would be looking at a feature set of a competing game and going, right, I need all those features and my graphics need to be better, and then the whole world will change. Because we know that doesn't really happen. Communities stick with games because of design or communities themselves. So yeah. And then my last point is read Lean Startup. It's a great book. It's a bit of a cliche in Silicon Valley, but it really does work and it really does help you. We did this just as we were emerging out of our valley of despair. We got the whole studio to watch videos and read this book. And it really did wonders for the mindsets of the business. So there's a tip for you. So fourth on my list is create exciting horizons. This is really a big point for leadership in terms of messaging and communication and motivation. And how do you do it? And why do you do it? Because if your next bet fails, your next idea fails or succeeds, your team really need to know what's happening next. And I in the past have been called out quite a few times going, wow, the unexpected has happened. What do we do next? And sometimes it takes days to figure out. And so this is the really challenging bit is you need to be really pumped and visionary about what you're doing now, but you also need to be really mindful of what you're going to do after the thing that you're doing comes to an end. And so you always need to be planning your next horizon. And this is really important about the mindset of being creative rather than reactive. So you're constantly planning out different scenarios. And being creative, I don't mean in the art sense of painting pictures or writing music. I mean being creative in terms of the wonderful moment that you have as a person when you're in control, you're making plans, you're really thinking about what you're trying to do next. When you're reactive, it's stressful, you're anxious, you can't sleep, you're going, oh my God, how do I get through this? What am I going to do? And you're probably not making your finest choices because you're not in control. You're reacting to the marketplace or the business. And then when it comes to this, you've really got to watch out for imposter syndrome, which is when you're telling the studio, this is where we're heading and it's all going to be great, it's amazing, it's over this hill, there's this amazing thing that's going to happen with the business. But actually inside and in your head, you're constantly thinking, oh dear, what if they all know? This is really terrifying. I don't have the answers. I have an inkling this is where we need to go. So really look after yourself and really lean on support. Get a business coach. They're phenomenal at being objective and outside view, and really help you kind of get through lots of sort of really tough sort of mental well-being challenges. And then also about looking after yourself, make sure you still take all your holidays, because every holiday I have, I always come back. I'm pretty sure people get annoyed with me coming back from holiday, but always come back with loads of ideas and lots of enthusiasm and love for the business, because it's just, you just need a recharge. And I think a lot of first-time entrepreneurs think that they have to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day to make this business a success. And yes, that can work. But life's too short. Like I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old kids. Do I want them to remember me as the guy that was always on his laptop recording Devcom videos? No. So I need to spend time with them. I need to spend time with the family. So, and then lastly, read JFK's speech about going to the moon. It's really inspiring, but it's not just inspiring. It's actually quite a technical speech if you think about it. And the thing that blew me away is he sets within this sort of inspiring speech about going to the moon in 10 years, he sets a timeline and he sets a budget. And it's just a wonderful piece of work. It's really motivating. I hope you enjoy it. Cool. So that's create exciting horizons. And then managing your power. This is a big one for, I think, the industry, because being the CEO is an intoxicating, powerful position, and we need to make games development a fairer and a better place to work. So, being the CEO at Hutch is the biggest privilege of my life, or one of. Having my children is also. So you have to really for me, what's core to this is you have to really manage your power in terms of how you use it. You also need to create a real sense of company ownership. And I'm not talking about just about share options. Like every staff member that passes their probation at Hutch gets share options in the business. So it's an employee owned and driven business. We do have investors, but it's, giving a sense of ownership is more than just share options. It's about people having agency and being able to make an impact inside your business. So obviously there's transparency I talked about, so people know what's going on, but then there's the ability for people to do things that actually have a huge impact on your business. And that's really key about empowerment. And then remember, your team's work is their work, not yours. So if you're being asked to look at things or review things, and you have to, I think you should always give constructive feedback and really think about the way that you're talking about it, which I think I mentioned before, is not tell people what to do, but ask open questions and ask sort of challenging questions. And that will make their job a lot more richer in terms of the things that they can do. And then on this point is, I think Jacinda Ardern did an incredible speech at the UN where she talked about leading with kindness. And I think for me, it blew me away that I'd never really thought that leaders could do this, because kindness in a way is attributed to weakness, but it's not. It's not weak at all. It's actually, you're treating people as you would like to be treated. So it doesn't mean that you cross the boundaries of looking after your business, but it does mean the way that you treat people. So if you're letting someone go, you're obviously building up to a process of that, and people should always know that they're not performing to a certain standard. So if you do let them go, they're completely aware that this is on the cards. It doesn't come as a shock. And for me, that's kindness. It's like giving them an opportunity to try and turn things around. So that's quite big. And then this is probably the biggest lesson I learned from the very early stages, it's a massive lesson and has had long-lasting impact on the business. This is really like collaborating with your founders or your leadership team is something that's incredibly important in connecting with your team. And actually, in the first 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 years at the start of Hutch, I was quite insular. I'm not an artist. I'm not a coder. I really focused on the business, but I was really insular. And I told my co-founders what I was doing, but I never really enabled them enough, I think, to participate in that journey. And I think it's actually quite cheap to do so. So later on in the journey, I found a way and a rhythm and a beat to keep founder engagement, to keep leadership engagement about all the different things that we're doing. And I think if you could do this from the very start, it's quite cheap, but it's massively engaging and it's massively empowering for your core set of co-founders. So my final tip on managing power is research servant leadership. It's so much easier to work in this way. It means you can take holidays. It means you can really hand the business over to good people to run, and you're there to shepherd, not to dictate. It makes your life a lot more enriching, and it makes their lives a lot more enriching. And you get to keep good people because they like their jobs. So that's a big one. My final words, really. So we've taken you through the valley of despair and all the different things that went on with the business. There were 5 core lessons. Build trust and empathy because you need your team to follow you through the tough times. Be relentlessly focused because you'll be able to make decisions a lot quicker. Be the lean underdog because you have no money. You've got no choice. You have to cut corners. You have to do less egotistical projects about your ego and more about what the market wants. Create exciting horizons. So be a leader that's constantly messaging, constantly communicating to your team about where you're going, but always having another plan after you've hit that milestone. And then managing the power, because we need to create a fairer, better work environment, better work-life balance within games. So we got through this valley of despair, and things really, really started to evolve for the business. So if you look to the right, we started to release a lot quicker, and you can see the stacking really starts to move here. And then we had a product that really hit market fit, which was top drives, and it really allowed us to build a really strong community. And the last 3 games have all been successful. They're all profitable, and they've really put the business in a really strong position to take some really innovative bets, and we're going to be number 1 in racing in the next couple of years. So I'm really proud of this. My sort of final words for everyone watching this, and thanks for taking the time to do that, is start a games business. Even if it fails, it will be way more valuable. Build it with some focus and purpose, and build games that people want, not just games you want to make. And then lastly, kindness is not about being weak. It's about how we want to be treated. And if you're an investor, invest in the people, not just the ideas, and be patient. I've been really fortunate to have incredible investors from Index Ventures, Backed VC, Initial Capital, and angels like Chris Lee, who've really been super patient. It's been 9 years. Some of those investors have been in the business for almost 7 years. And, and together we've built a fantastic business. So very, very grateful to that. At the end of my presentation, if you go online, you'll be able to see a bunch of inspiring sort of web links that have really helped me grow as a leader, and also all the people that have helped us in terms of suppliers that have helped us build this presentation, our website, and stuff around that. So great. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been about 32 minutes. I will be available in the Q&A, so hope to see you there. Thanks very much. Bye.